What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Donnie Does It. Actually, this is going to be on the tread life. Some fun things happened in the last little bit that you guys might not be aware of. I actually started a new online parts warehouse for all things with tires, and it's called the Tread Life. And so you probably noticed that this channel is now called the Tread Life, which obviously is still going to include a lot of Toyota content because that's what I have, but now it can be a little bit more inclusive of all things, like maybe my wife's Jeep or maybe my Silverado. I don't know, because we're going to try to make content for all things that have tires. And so that's going to include side-by-sides and pickup trucks and four-wheelers and down the road possibly motorcycles. And so we're going to try to have aftermarket parts and accessories for everything. Also a forum for everybody to be a part of. That's our Discord channel as well as a Facebook group. But for today, I want to show you guys what I broke. So about a weekend ago, maybe two now, I decided to run a trail called Compressor Creek here in North Idaho. Pretty fun trail. This is from a hole in the oil pan. And you're probably wondering how I got a hole in the oil pan on the side of it. Well, that takes a very specific skill. Also, a lot of ratchet straps. And the way we did it, broke off the frame side track bar mount. And I've seen this before. Unfortunately, I thought I could get away with just a couple of inches of weld on either side, and I was very wrong. So these are my attempts at a trail fix, which was ratchet strapping it back to the frame. Then we winched it to the frame, also broke my winch hook. Then we decided to cross strap the frame to the axle to try to keep that square. And unfortunately, without a track bar, you've got no way of keeping the axle from going side to side. So also that means I had no steering. It was also pouring rain and the trail could only go up and down the same way. So I blocked it for, a good amount of time for the rest of the people that were trying to run the trail with me. And it was overall a pretty sad day and lesson learned. So we're gonna rebuild that track bar mount to be a little bit more all-encompassing of the frame. I'm gonna try to box it in. I've considered maybe even running a bolt through the top of it just on the off chance that a weld breaks again. I think it'll be pretty unlikely because I'm gonna build a top and a bottom out of 1/4 inch plate to match the frame side, that match the actual mount thickness. And then I may even run another one across the inside of the frame to kind of just box that whole thing in. You see, the issue is track bar mount hangs off of the frame down this way. Track bar comes this way, and so there's a ton of leverage on that mount. And unfortunately, with just those, a couple inches of weld here, it just popped right off. Should have seen that coming. I mean, I don't know. It could have gone either way. I am happy that it happened on a trail where I was going very slowly and not on something like, I don't know, on the freeway, because I do drive this thing on the freeway because it is capable of running on the freeway, and I have taken my son to school and different things like that. And so I am happy that nothing happened at high speeds. I'm gonna check everything else over, make sure we don't have any other issues. I have looked at it once before, and outside from that little oil pan puncture, just kind of a doozy because that oil pan is a specific oil pan that is kind of expensive. I did order a new one to try to, I ordered a different one. Hopefully it will fit with our oil pump pickup. If not, I may actually modify this one to be more about what I need for the purpose. I may actually try to modify and make my own oil pan out of it. So that could be kind of fun too. In the meantime, I think today I'm just gonna start the tear down, start to get everything out of the way, all those old welds cleaned up and off of it, and come up with a solution for a better track bar mount design. So stay tuned. Well, now that we've got everything on stands and got the tires off, we can get a little bit better view of our nice shiny spot where our track bar mount used to live. can see that there was plenty of heat into the frame, but none on the actual mount. And that is, you know, 100% my fault. You can see where we started to kind of get some cut in there, but with this track bar mount being this thick, I just underheated it in order to try not to blow through the frame. So take full responsibility, obviously, but lesson learned. I think the easiest thing is going to be to add some more support. I considered running a piece of 1/4 inch plate across here. That way I could get a ton of heat into both pieces, and I'd have a nice plate to finish this out. So I may do that. I'm a little bit bound by this part here, which is my 1/4 inch plate. Ironically supports for all my coil towers, and you can see that those worked really well. I got a lot of penetration into both the frame and the pieces of metal on there, so no stresses or cracking or anything in that, which makes me happy because that would really bum me out. And I look down the rest of here, and all of our welds, all the rest of the welds are good. Just that one. So we got to come up with a game plan, and first I'm going to mark it, make sure I got it back in the same spot, because I don't really feel like going through all that math again. And as of right now, this lives right in the perfect spot, so I'm just gonna set this back in there like that and mark it, and then grind all the old weld away and come up with what we're gonna do. So anyway, oh look, now it's staying. Took the mount all the way off, and you can actually see some heat in here. So just a matter of, not being able to weld on both sides, I guess. Which is a bummer. Because obviously when I was up in here, I couldn't reach up in there and weld from the inside. So that's what I'm up against. Okay, I got all the welds cleaned up and off, and all the way around this time, because my plan again is to go up and over and down and then come up on this back side, I think. Or I'm possibly considering just going across the top and the bottom and then drilling holes and then running a bolt through there, just as like a little bit of extra security. I know that that sounds silly because the weld should obviously be stronger than the bolt, but I mean, what could it hurt? It's just, quick couple of holes, and can only make it that much more safe. It's kind of a belt and suspenders mentality. But so I got this old original, if y'all remember, Mistake. It's also 1/4 inch plate, so figure go ahead and cut this up to fit the same width. Take a nice little strip out of this, and then we can start making in our boxing for this. Got the piece mocked up in, well, magneted in. Everything's ground. Got some good bevels in here. I'm really trying to make this one last. So obviously it's long. So after I get it up there, I'm gonna put it into the frame, cut it. It's gonna go all the way back to there. So I'm gonna be able to run all that weld all the way on both sides on the inside. So that just makes that much more attachment point to the frame. Let's get it tacked in there. Well, this is pretty tight, but got some good passes in there. The end is obviously way harder to get into, but I think that's gonna be good. I got passes inside and outside. So yeah, some of them are a little prettier than others, but it's okay. It's hot. Got hot, real hot, real hot. Hot, hot, hot. That's what we want. Hot, hot, hot. All right, so there is our top plate. This is obviously upside down now. My bottom plate, I did drill a hole. I'm gonna debate on whether or not I'm gonna run a 9/16 bolt through it, or if I'm just gonna plug weld it, because I actually think the plug weld would be stronger anyway. It's just kind of a deep hole in there because it's 1/4 inch. So at any rate, this is how it's looking. Show you how it fits on there. All right, so it's gonna sit just like that. it goes. Now I can get weld on the top, on both sides. I can actually go all the way across the bottom, when before I had to stop, you know, halfway, so there was nothing really there. And then I'm thinking maybe even put a plate across this back side here. Just box that whole baby in. This thing's never ever gonna come off, ever. It will die on the truck. Well, so far I'm happy with this. Got a bunch of inches of weld all the way around this time. The top, the bottom. We're definitely getting this bad boy stuck on there for good. Now, I'm going to make a plate for back in there. As you can see, I've been preheating too, getting just a bunch of heat in the frame, which that's what we want. We want this thing to stick in there forever. So I'm gonna make a plate to go across this backside and get this last line of weld in there. And hopefully I can reach. I'm not really sure how I'm gonna get back there now that I'm looking at it. What do you think about this? All right, got her painted, got her plug welded on the top and the bottom. Whoops, I actually forgot to paint the top. And I was even able to get around the backside here. It is not easy to see. Let me get a flashlight. There we go. Plated all the way around the backside. Plug welded on the top and bottom. And I got the bolt back in it. So I think we're good. I think everything's good. I think it's gonna be great. Well, okay. Now that we've got our track bar licked, it's time for us to start some repairs, or the repair on this oil pan. I let it drain overnight. Now we are going to get this thing popped off. I'm gonna see if my replacement pan is gonna fit. If not, we're gonna have to repair this one. So I got a replacement pan, and it's not the same one that I have, because the one that I have is very hard to get. This one actually looks like it's more shallow, which would be really cool. There's gonna be more room for my track bar to travel up. The problem I see is I think the oil pickup tube runs right across there, which is why that one is a little bit deeper. So I'm gonna start by seeing if I can get this one to go on there. If not, then it's gonna have to patch the one that we have. So let's get after it. Well, kind of as we suspected, this new oil pan, this front portion's not gonna clear our oil pickup. As you can see, it gets all the way up in there. It gets all the way up in there, and then it catches. It gets all the way up in there, and then it hits our pickup tube before we can get it. I can get that stud, but yeah. So, unfortunately, that means that this one is not gonna work. So, might just have to either salvage some parts, some steel off of this to fix our other one, or go ahead and return it. It was only like 50 bucks. But that means that our plan of patching that up right there is gonna be what we're gonna have to do. So, not a big deal, kinda saw it coming. So, let's go ahead and get this cleaned up and get to work. I will say the one kind of nice thing is I never did check the oil or change the oil since I swapped this motor in. And we don't have any sort of metal in here, which is nice. I mean, obviously there's some metal where it poked through on this side, a little bit of plastic and stuff, but no glittery chunks, so you don't have any sort of bearing issues or really anything to worry about on the motor side, so that's exciting. Let's get this thing cleaned up. This gives us a better look at how much carnage. It actually held up pretty good considering. Basically what happened is, since the track bar broke, there was nothing to keep the axle moving side to side. So when I would steer, instead of steering the axle, it would just push the body over until it started rubbing up against the inside of this bolt right here. And so this bolt was just jamming up against the oil pan, and then the body or the tires would steer because the body was locked. So I only actually was able to turn to the right, which was pretty interesting. Pickup tube looks fine, nothing got in there. It didn't push in far enough to damage that, so I'm excited because I didn't want to mess with that assembly. However, I need to figure out some way of repairing this. I don't think I'm going to be able to punch it out from the inside just because I'm not going to be able to. So I think what I'm going to do is section this out until it's square again, somewhere down through here. Kind of cut this out and then either pound this flat and try to get it back in there, or just make, you know, a new plate out of some scrap, like 16 gauge or something. I've got plenty of this stuff. Just make a patch panel that's this size, butt welded in there. You know, make sure it holds water, and then if it holds water, it'll hold oil. So that's probably the plan. Well, I cut a hole in it, made some slots in it. I'm gonna try to work this back out, and then we're gonna try to patch her up. Hopefully it works. All right, got a nice hole cut out, pounded out this as best I could. It actually, you know, it's relatively the shape that it was before. I'm clean up the inside because we're probably gonna try to weld both sides of this, but cut out a piece of cardboard. I think we're gonna put it on the outside. That's gonna give it a little bit of reinforcement, as well as allow me to weld across the outside and then also from the inside as well. So I think I'm gonna need to get to fold this over some, but that's okay once it's pretty close. Oops. Need to fold this over some. Once it's pretty close, we'll start making our shape. So, all right, I'm feeling pretty good about our hole. I'm feeling pretty good about our patch. Now, obviously, it doesn't fit perfect because I'm gonna have to kind of pound it around as we go. So I'm gonna get it tacked a couple spots and then start kind of shaping it to make it around this bend here. But overall, that's the shape we were looking for, and I'll be able to do this all the way around the outside, and then we'll come around and do it on the inside also, and it should be plenty sealed up. Let's get to it. Here's our first couple passes. A lot of heat. Now, the heat is nice, you know, that means that we got good penetration, but our real goal is for it to not leak. So, you know, obviously this isn't gonna be like super structural. We just wanna make sure that, you know, these are going all the way through, and then I can weld across that back side and then seal this thing up permanently, you know. So there is our patched area. Definitely is hard to get into some of these spots on the inside. It was pretty hard to get down in there, especially without blowing through, but I think with all of our welds on the inside, as well as the outside, and the outside actually is, you know, about 1/4 inch or maybe a little even more after the inside welds. I'm gonna go soak this in some water and see if anything comes out, but I think we should be good to go. And then I need to look up if I should paint it on the inside. Obviously I'm gonna paint on the outside, but it was E-coated on the inside, and I'm wondering if I should just leave it. You know, oil is not corrosive or anything, but well, I'm gonna go look that up. So I went ahead and filled this up with some water. I put a little soap in it just to kind of clean it off. And we've got a leak. There it goes, dripped right there. So You just see where that's coming from, and get a little weld on it on the inside and the outside. I'm also considering maybe sealing this whole thing up with JB Weld or something inside and out on all the seams. So our 2 leaks were coming from right there, and then this little spot right there. So I'm gonna need to do something about that. Probably just put another little tack on it and grind it back down, seal it up. Well, our third try was the charm. Had one little pinhole heat leak right there, and went ahead, patched it up, ground it down for good measure, just because I want to make sure I don't have any surprises later. I'm going to go ahead and put some form-in-place gaskets by the Toyota gasket maker all around this seam here, just for giggles, because I want to make sure that we don't have any more issues. Well, ladies and germs, this is success here. This is an oil pan back in a one piece. You might notice a little bit of a shine to it. That's because I had some leftover, just like 2-part epoxy, so I just went over the whole thing on the outside. Didn't have any leaks while it was sitting there with water, but you know, it might spring one later. So nice thing about this stuff is it'll dry clear and then I can paint over it. So I'm just gonna shoot this black and nobody will be the wiser. Well, she's officially back on all 4. Added some 1-inch wheel spacers in the front so I could match my track width in the rear, which is spot on now. Also, it won't rub on my link bar when it's dropped out. When it was dropped all the way out and I would turn to the left, it would rub on the link bar. Then I want to adjust the steering stops and get less turn radius out of it. So just wanted to get a 1-inch wheel spacer. This is our last remnant from our mistake. Cool. I'm gonna let that epoxy set up, maybe throw some oil in it tomorrow and start her up. Well, I'm pretty proud of our repairs. Don't let me forget to tighten that nut down, because I did. But honestly, you can't even tell. If you take a look down in here, unless you're really looking for it, there's no way to know that that has been repaired. That's good enough for me. Thanks for watching, guys, and coming along with me. And now that we're fixed, I hope to see you on the trails.